In the fall of 1990, as a Dartmouth freshman, I stood on the green and watched the massive homecoming bonfire burn. This bonfire, it was a towering structure of wood and heat, and the students had meticulously engineered it. Everyone else saw the flames, but I could not stop staring at the scaffolding that held the blaze, keeping it burning bright instead of collapsing in on itself. And that bonfire has kind of become my life's metaphor. Fire without structure burns out, and structure without fire sits cold. You need both. I'm Andrea Libros, and welcome back to another episode of She Thinks Big. If you've been around here for a while, you know that this is the work I do. I help ambitious women build both the flame and the framework, because most of these women, they don't have a motivation problem. They have a structure problem. They have ideas and energy and ambition, but they don't have anything solid underneath to hold it all. And that's where I come in. Sometimes I think of it like being a master gardener, clearing out all of those weeds of doubt and making space for them to grow and build. We build something that can actually sustain the growth. So let's talk about this word, infrastructure. Recently, I was having a conversation where someone said, doesn't that word infrastructure feel a little rigid? Like something fixed, something you can't change? But that's not how I see it. I see it as belief infrastructure, and belief infrastructure is flexible. It evolves. It's just like a house. You can renovate a house. You can expand it. You can change it. You can reinforce it as your life grows, as your family grows, as you grow. And your belief works in the same way. Now, I will say this. If you've spent a long time seeing the world in a certain way, especially if you've been through something really hard, it can feel almost impossible to believe that your thinking could shift or your beliefs could shift, because really your beliefs are just a bunch of thoughts. And I'm not here to tell you that you can just flip a switch or snap your fingers and change everything overnight. You cannot do that. But you can start adjusting your infrastructure. You can start noticing what's driving your decisions. And then you can ask yourself, does this belief still serve me? That is the real work. That's the work worth doing. That's the work we have to do. It is not just forcing new beliefs. It's assessing your current beliefs and choosing intentionally what you want to build on from there, what you might want to change or renovate or restructure from there. All right, let's look at what happens when the belief infrastructure is missing. And I'm going to tell you about a client. I'm going to call her Sarah. And she was brilliant. She is brilliant. She does have a strategy. She has a team. She has a budget, but she couldn't get all the people on her team, her organization, to really execute on anything. She kept saying that her team didn't believe in the vision of the organization. But when we audited her beliefs, we really discovered she didn't believe it either. She didn't believe the vision either. And this was kind of surprising, and it made her pause and kind of question, what was she doing here in the first place? She believed that she had to have all of the answers, and that asking for help meant weakness. So she didn't really believe that she or her team could fulfill or live out the vision that she had for the business. So what we did together is we built her a belief ladder. Her bottom rung of the ladder was, maybe I don't have to know everything. And then she moved to the next rung. I'm learning to lead through asking questions. But if we go to that very top rung, I'm a CEO who makes space for collective brilliance. Within about 2 months or 8 weeks, her team launched the initiative they had delayed for over 18 months. It was not because the strategy had changed or the vision had changed, but it was because her belief system did. She now believed that she didn't have to have all of the answers up front. She believed that she would lead through asking questions and that things would evolve and eventually get to where she wanted them to go. So I want to be very clear. Belief work does not erase systemic barriers or bias or discrimination. However, when women navigate broken belief systems without a strong belief infrastructure, they sometimes internalize these barriers as personal failures. They can think that something that's happening in their business is truly a reflection of them personally. Here's another example. I worked with a woman who was constantly interrupted in meetings. She was meeting with a client, and that client constantly interrupted her. And she internalized that by believing that she must not be speaking clearly enough or loud enough, not loud literally, but loud figuratively. So we rebuilt her belief to be, I speak with clarity and authority. When I'm interrupted, that's about them, not me. When she started calmly naming the interruptions as being about them, not her, belief work equips you really with some tools to navigate what's happening, to navigate the reality with agency. I love that word agency. It's like with your own power, with your own belief that you can create change. How do we actually change our beliefs? We use what I love to call the belief bridge. And here's what this belief bridge is about. I want you to picture a river. There are two banks on either side of the river. One of the banks of the river is called the land of impossible, and that's probably where you're currently standing. In that land of impossible, you're standing there with your old limiting beliefs. Thoughts like, I have to do everything myself, or I should know all the answers. Now, across this body of water, which I like to call the river of misery, is the next land, the second land, and that is the land of inevitable. And that's where future you lives. And future you lives there with confidence and leads with this calm authority. Now, connecting the land of impossible with the land of inevitable is a belief bridge. And this belief bridge, it's kind of like a little wooden bridge with planks. And each of those planks is going to represent a different thought or a different belief. But remember, under this bridge is flowing the river of misery. And that river of misery is a space of discomfort and doubt and fear. And you could fall into the river of misery. You could fall right off the bank or right off the bridge and go into that river of misery, and it can sweep you up. Now, most people think that they should be able to jump from the land of impossible right over to the land of inevitable. But I'm here to tell you that there is no zip line. You cannot go from one to the other quickly because your nervous system is going to reject that transition. Just like your nervous system is going to reject a belief it sees as a lie and something not possible yet. Okay, so to get from one side of the river to the other, we have to walk across this bridge one belief plank at a time. And I want to walk you through the 7 steps of creating a belief plan, because the belief plan is kind of like your map to get from one side to the other. So if you have a pen, this might be the time to grab it, okay? Because I'm going to share this belief plan framework. We're also going to share it in our newsletter this week. So check out the link in the show notes to get this download of a belief plan through our newsletter. Step 1, you need to define your point of view. You have to ground your belief work in a personal truth by creating what I might call a belief manifesto, which is 3, 4, 5 sentences that summarize your core principles. Because if you don't define the way you are looking at things, the world's going to define it for you. So if you think that you need to have all of the answers up front, that might be your belief manifesto. But if you believe that you will be able to ask questions and learn throughout a process, that's another type of manifesto. So you need to write down, what are your core principles? That's step 1. Step 2, you've got to clarify your vision. So you need to write a future vision statement in the present tense, defining what your future you is doing. So this is the you a year from now, 3 years from now. What is she doing? She is smiling. I want to remind you of that. Okay. But if we don't do this step of writing a vision down, belief without a vision is kind of like daydreaming. And having a vision without a belief that it's possible is exhausting. So step 2 is clarifying the vision, and that is going to come from future you. Step 3, let's audit out what beliefs or thoughts that you have that are serving you and what beliefs or thoughts you have that are not serving you. And a great way to do this is to create a 2-column table and ask yourself, does this belief serve my vision? And if it's not, then you can retire it. Thinking you need to have all the answers, that's probably not serving you. Thinking that you can grow from asking questions, that is serving you. So step 3 is audit what beliefs are serving you and what beliefs aren't. Step 4 is building this belief ladder. You need to create 3 to 5 middle rungs that are going to connect your old beliefs to your new beliefs. And you can start with the possible plank, which is driven by curiosity. And then you can move to the probable plank, which is driven by confidence. And then you can finally step into the inevitable plank, which is driven by certainty. You might say, it's possible that I don't need to have all of the answers up front. It's probable that even if I did have some answers, they might be wrong. And it is inevitable that I am going to learn by asking questions along the way. So do you see how we moved from possible to probable to inevitable? That is a very souped up, quick version of how to build a belief ladder or belief bridge. And I do have a whole other podcast episode, by the way, on this, which we will link in the show notes. All right, step 5, creating your to believe list. So you need to start each day by asking, what do I need to believe to make this possible or probable or inevitable, depending on where you're at? Okay, so this kind of goes back to when I say your to believe list is your new to-do list. Okay, so the to believe list can actually become your new to-do list, because if you're believing something, it's going to tell you what to do. This transforms all of the belief work we're doing from just being a concept into a daily decision-making filter. And remember, this is kind of the work worth doing. This is not just isn't theoretical. This is actually something that you can literally do. Step 6 is aligning the belief with behavior. And this is exactly what I do in my activator offer. This is where we turn your vision into action steps. This is where we integrate your beliefs into tangible actions you can take. And this is hard work, because a lot of times we think, how am I going to do this? I believe it. I'm with you. I can see it happening, but I just don't know how. So this is where we turn your vision into action. So for example, if you want to think of yourself as CEO of your business, what do CEOs actually do? They block out time to do some deep thinking work, which might mean that you have to find time on your calendar to do that deep CEO work. And that might mean that you have to rearrange how you go about each day. So this is the kind of thing that we go deeper in when we do an activator, which truly means turning this vision into action steps. And then step 7 is to review and refine and repeat. Remember, this belief is a living system that needs feedback. It's that like flame in the bonfire, right? We have to keep fueling it. So we need to track your actions weekly. We need to look and see if there is evidence weekly that this belief is actually becoming inevitable. Belief isn't really built in huge moments. Remember, this bridge isn't just 3 planks. It's built in small, consistent steps. There's lots of planks in this belief bridge that are going to take you from the land of impossible to that land of inevitable. Now, I want to remind you that you cannot walk over the river of misery without some safety gear, okay? You need a life jacket. And this life jacket is made up of 3 parts. Part number 1, you need a board of directors. You need strategic voices. You need a coach or a mentor who believe in your inevitable, even when you don't yet. Sometimes I say my job is to believe in you more than you believe in yourself right now. Number 2, who's your bench? Who are your emotional anchors? Who's that bestie and who's going to catch you when you fall? Who's going to commiserate with you in a sense, right? But you can't just have commiserators. You need to have your board of directors. And then third, you need your evidence keepers. These are the people that are going to mirror back to you what's actually happening. Now, you can do this for yourself if you are an amazing journaler, or you can have an accountability partner, or you can have a community who's going to track the proof that the new belief is working. It's because it's not like you're not going to ever fail or fall, but you don't want to be falling alone. You want someone there to see you fall and to help you make it better next time. So, moral of the story here is make sure you have your life jacket on as you walk over this river of misery. You need a board of directors, you need a bench, and you need some evidence keepers. Here is your homework. I want you to build your own bridge. Let's just think of one major goal that you have right now and ask yourself what belief would make that goal inevitable instead of impossible, and write it down. That is the top rung of your belief ladder. Now, ask yourself, what would I need to believe first to even make that top rung feel possible? And that thought is going to be the first rung. You need to find a single believable thought. So in 30 seconds, we now have our first rung and our top rung. And we just did that in 30 seconds. I want you to imagine what you could build in 30 days. So I know you have the spark. You have that spark. That flame is in you, but you probably need the scaffolding. Go back to that bonfire. Picture it. I know you've got the flame, but do you have the scaffolding around it? It's time to really treat belief as seriously as you're treating budgets and metrics and building a team and your offers. We have to treat belief just as important. It's just as important as all of those other things. It has to get built into every plan, every meeting, every decision. Because when your belief is strong, everything else you build actually holds. I'm Andrea Libros. Thank you for betting on belief. If today's episode resonated with you, I highly suggest you go to the show notes and book a chemistry call with me. Check out that top link, schedule your chemistry call. And with that, I will see you next Tuesday with a whole new episode of She Thinks Big.